Let me use the remaining time we have left to talk about the Senate race. You were quoted in a story in the Dallas Morning News yesterday. Bob Garrett, great reporter for the Dallas News, had covered the Austin Republican Women's Forum. And Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, candidate in this race, did not show up for that forum, as he has declined to appear at a number of Tea Party forums around the state. You accused him of hiding from Republicans, hiding from voters. Would you care to take another swing at that ball for my benefit?
Look, in the 6-7 weeks since Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst has entered the race, there have been 8 candidate forums. He skipped 7 of them.
What do you think's going on here? Is he taking a knee? Do you think he's trying to just win this race by not, is it a Rose Garden strategy? What is it?
You know what? I am not going to presume to know what is going on inside Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst's head. What I will say is several things. Number one...
We need a fake David Dewhurst Twitter feed to actually tell us, don't we? Yeah.
Number one, I don't believe any candidate is going to be able to buy this race. Simply writing a check and doing TV commercials, if that is their strategy, that strategy will lose. I'll tell you at every one of these events, and these are, what's interesting, these are Tea Party events, they're Republican women events, they're county party events. This is across the spectrum. You have 200, 300, 400 grassroots activists, conservative activists, Republican women. The moderator invariably says, we invited David Dewhurst to participate. He refused to attend. And the entire room boos.
Right.
Now, if you go, the Denton County Republican Party, there were over 400 activists there. If you go and tell the grassroots all across the state, in Denton County, in Austin, in Waco, in Clear Lake, in Kerrville, all of which he's missed, if you tell all of them, we don't care about the grassroots, we don't care about the primary voters, that's a strategy that will lose.
What is wrong with Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst substantively? Leave aside the tactic of not attending these forums. What do you disagree with Lieutenant Governor on specifically? What do you specifically disagree with him on? What actions as Lieutenant Governor has he taken that you would not have? Give me the substantive critique of Lieutenant Governor.
Absolutely. Listen, let me say, I think Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst is a smart man. I think he's a hard worker, and I think he's a decent human being. I like Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst personally.
This is setting up like my blind date had a nice personality. Come on.
Well, and I also think it's not worth a second blind date. In my opinion, Texas deserves 2 things from the next senator: a strong conservative and a fighter.
Is he a strong conservative?
No.
Is he a fighter?
No. President Barack Obama, in my judgment, is the most radical president this country has ever seen. We are facing a crisis where the federal government is engaged in a war on jobs, and what is at jeopardy is individual liberty in the Constitution. Texas, look, we are too strong a state, too conservative of a state, to have a spineless senator. We need somebody leading the fight.
Do you think David Dewhurst is spineless?
What I think is that his career in government, what he prides himself on, or at least prior to this year he prided himself on, was being a conciliator. Evan, how many times have you heard Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst talk about his wonderful ability to bring every Democrat in the room and reach a compromise? He's very proud of that.
Sounds like Governor Bush, though, also.
But there was a big difference, which is that Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst's record, the substance of the compromise hasn't mattered. All that's mattered is that everyone comes together. If it's a compromise, then that's the end solution. Look, Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst has publicly suggested the state of Texas should have an income tax. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst has publicly castigated business.
If Governor Dewhurst were here, he would absolutely deny that he supports an income tax.
But the problem is he said it in the press, and the news media has a way of keeping records. So I can't help what he said publicly.
Can you produce after this forum a single clip where Governor Dewhurst supported an income tax?
I can show you the quotes.
Mr. Drogan has my email address.
I can show you the quotes. But not only that, he has publicly castigated Texas businesses. Businesses need to pay more of their fair share of taxes in Texas. You know, I happen to disagree with the Lieutenant Governor. I don't think business is undertaxed in Texas. Just this last session, he appointed a committee of senators with a specific task: go explore, quote, revenue enhancers. Now, those are his words, not mine. Now, in the English language, revenue enhancers means new taxes.
Well, not only new taxes. It might mean fees.
You know what?
You don't play semantic games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
English words have meaning. And is there a difference? Absolutely there's a difference. A strong fiscal conservative, as you know well, when the House passed a budget, a conservative budget that didn't raise taxes, that balanced the budget and didn't cap the rainy day fund, Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst led a group of senators out on the stage blasting the budget, saying we're going to spend billions of dollars of the rainy day fund. Why? Because we're not cold-hearted, mean Republicans like those people in the House. You know, I mean, one of the interesting things of this last session, Evan, as you know, a great many conservative activists and Tea Party activists were very critical of the Speaker of the House, Joe Strauss. By any measure, Joe Strauss had a much more conservative session than David Dewhurst did. The House was much more conservative than the Senate was. The Senate was the place bills like sanctuary cities, the ban on sanctuary cities, and the ban on TSA groping. The Senate was the place they went to die, and they went to die because David Dewhurst doesn't like to stand up and fight for principle.
Are you endorsing Joe Strauss for Speaker today?
What I'm saying is if you look at their records, that contrast is very clear. And I will point out, you know, an institution that you have some familiarity with, Texas Monthly, agreed exactly with that sentiment, which is why he was listed as one of the worst legislators last month, because the way to make...
I'm done explaining for Burka, so I'm done.
But look, the way to make decisions in politics is not to put your finger in the air. It's not to see which way the wind is blowing. I mean, what was interesting about the fight over the rainy day fund is initially Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst blasted the House and said, we're going to spend the rainy day fund. Now, I don't agree with that, but that's at least a principled position. So fine, if he wants to defend that principled position, that's great. What happened then? Governor Perry began criticizing him and saying, show some fiscal restraint. And suddenly he flipped and said, no, I changed my mind. Let's not spend the rainy day fund. And as you know well, the senators that he had walked out on a limb and said, let's go do this together, they looked back at him and said, why'd you saw this limb off? Now, he can be for tax and spend, he can be for limited government, but he can't be for both at the same time. And the problem we have had in Washington is an awful lot of Republicans exactly like that. On one day, they give a speech about what great fiscal conservatives they are. On the next day, they say, let's raise taxes and spend more money. And that's a big part of what got Barack Obama elected in the first place, is Republicans were not standing for limited government, individual liberty, and the Constitution. Okay. That's what the next Texas senator needs to stand